Glen City Council Committee of the Whole will please come to order. We'll begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman.
Here.
Seeley. McGraw. Allison.
Here.
Oder.
Here.
Connell.
Here.
O'Neill.
Here.
Thank you. Our first item tonight is the taxi limo ordinance update. Lisa.
So we made the updated changes, provided a draft pursuant to council's request. And there's only a couple of things that I would ask the council to consider. Removing the additional insured as the city from the policy effectively means that the city will not be notified if that individual cancels or terminates their policy. So it is kind of a safeguard for the city to know that they're not just gonna come in, renew, show proof, and then the next day go out and cancel. The only other thing I would ask for is just a kind of a final decision on who you'd like on the Board of Appeals, just in case we were ever to get an appeal that we'd have a board to go to. So, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll open it up to council comments and thoughts. Councilmember Connors?
Is there going to be any kind of review, like a review process or random compliance check or anything like that?
There is not anything currently in the ordinance. It would just be, an annual. They'd have to show proof of insurance. They would have to show proof of current inspection for the last year. And then it's basically complaint-based after that. If we get complaints, then trying to work with law enforcement to investigate.
I mean, could they make it a requirement? Could we just make it a requirement? Maybe they got to post their policy along with their on the window, or a copy of that or something like that. I mean, that way I don't have a problem with removing us as an insured, but if they do go out and cancel, within a week, we could implement a fine. Whereas, somebody could turn them in and they get fined, and the fine is gonna be more than keeping it on there. I mean, it's something that's obviously a safeguard for the personnel riding it, but, having that, I understand, does cost them money. It wouldn't be in their best interest to cancel the insurance, so.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Thank you, Your Honor. Since we last met and all this seemed like it was going pretty smoothly, it was fine. There's two issues that I kind of looked into since our last meeting. One, because of calls I got. The other, I checked with some insurance people, not ours, and I did that particularly because I didn't think it was a conflict of interest, but I just wanted to get a different opinion. One of the things about having us also named insured is it does cause compliance, because if they drop the policy, they will call us and say, hey, these people dropped and you're also named insured, so they'll call us, just like if you dropped the insurance on your house and you had a mortgage, they would call your bank. And that's good. But here's here's a scenario of the problem that was made, I guess, enlightened to me, because I didn't think of it, so it's not my idea. If somebody comes in and says, Lisa, here's my insurance and I want my sticker, and they get their sticker, and then in March they drop their insurance, and in June they've got 5 people in the cab and they have an accident that's caused by the cab driver, and they don't have insurance, or they don't have enough insurance, they're going to our pockets next. Because any lawyer that's got 2 cents worth of sense is going to come back after the city and sue us on behalf of their client because we didn't enforce the insurance policy. Now, we can make up all the excuses we want, but the way it's explained to me, the reality of things are, if there's 4 or 5 people in a cab, or even one person, and that person, say, gets killed, and the family goes to sue the cab company and they've only got $100,000 worth of insurance, you guys are next. Now, the reality is, I'm not going to be here. It's not going to be my problem, but it's the city's problem, and I still have some concerns about making sure things are the best for the city. So, for the $65, and I know it's another expense, and we do have an obligation to, help businesses as much as we can, But we got 26,000 other people that we need to make sure that they're not left in a lurch because somebody circumvented the rules. They come in with their insurance, they get their sticker, and then they drop it. If we're not on top of it and something does happen, and maybe it's not fair, but the reality of it, that's even a second-year law school student's gonna come back after the city. We got a lot bigger, deeper pockets than any taxi cab company around. So that's where that's gonna wind up. So I'm just urging you or suggesting that we keep that also insured on there. And if we get discussion on the other thing, I'll talk about it then. But that was the advice I got from two different insurance people, not our own. So it's something we didn't think about before, we were just talking about the fact that they could drop their insurance, which they can, but the fact of the matter is, whether they do or not, that's not really the important thing, is they do, and then there is a liability on their part, and they don't have the insurance, and it's required by us to give them the sticker, and they got a sticker, and we didn't follow up on it. I think we're gonna be laying out there just waiting to get our neck chopped off. So I would strongly suggest, and I guess I'll be in favor of having that also insured on there. I really can't be that supportive of the whole thing.
I'll second your motion.
Pardon me?
I said I'll second your motion.
Oh, no, okay, thank
Did you
I
make
guess-
a motion?
Well, I will make a motion
Somewhere
that
in
we,
there.
I will make a motion that we do absolutely have to have that also included on there. I realize it's an extra expense, and I think maybe if they do a little shopping around, someone that's smart will take the $1 million premium and forget about the $65 and maybe, give them a better deal. But for our own liability and our own, to cover cover ourselves, I guess I'll just put it that way, that, that be on there. Because that way we can say, hey, look, we have the also insured, we were informed, we called them on it, they continued to drive the taxi without having the insurance, and all we need, once we find that, Lisa finds that out, we just need to send them a registered letter saying, you're in violation of city policy, and if we can prove we covered that and did our due diligence, then I think, I'm not a lawyer either, so, I'm just saying, if you're uninformed and not a lawyer like I am, and somebody says, this is the best way to protect yourself, that's where I think I need to go.
It's a common thing. I do it in my business. It doesn't cost anything. I just automatically give all my distributors a certificate that says I'm insured, and then they get notified if I cancel my policy. It's just a no-brainer.
Well, I do the same thing.
Yeah, so,
Most companies require a certificate of or proof of insurance.
yeah, exactly. But it doesn't cost anything. You get the right insurance people. They just send that to
Yeah.
whoever you
Well,
want.
your bank requires it for your cars and your mortgage and everything else, and they don't worry too much whether you gotta pay $20 or not, so I think.
Well, I understand that, so,
Was it,
It's
can I get
fine.
a point of clarification? Was it 65 per vehicle, or was it just 65? I couldn't remember if
I
it was.
I don't know if
remember
it's
either.
the umbrella policy or not. I don't
Yeah.
think we talked about that, if it was umbrella or if it's per car.
well,
Yeah. Is it 65 per car or 65 per insured?
65 per policy.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. A year,
A year.
okay.
not a month.
Okay, so is that a motion to?
Yes, I'll make the motion that we amend that to include that the city remains as the also insured on the ordinance.
second.
We have a motion and a second to put back the
That's a
section
quiet second.
114.17. Okay. So is there any other discussion on this?
Do we have any comments from?
Our turn, is our turn?
I don't think so.
He's on the phone, so. Considering he's not raising his hand, I assume it must be okay.
Yeah, he must think it's okay. I'm assuming.
Travis?
I can make a couple of comments just for the council's consideration.
So I can get my
I
paycheck.
don't have a problem either way, whether we're a named additional insured or not. The only downside of being a named additional insured is there's authority out there that we would waive our immunity if we do that, because we've we've elected to procure insurance. Therefore, we would waive our typical statutory immunity for this sort of thing. We would have immunity for any failure on the part of the city. Normally, we have an immunity for any failure on the part of the city to exercise discretionary functions like enforcement of our code, for example. You know, neither our police or any of our city code officials or our city clerk in this case, you know, would subject the city to liability for failure to make sure somebody had insurance. You know, we can't be sued for that kind of thing. We would aggressively move to dismiss any kind of lawsuit like that. But even if, for some reason, we did waive our immunity by having that insurance, the odds of us being liable for a negligent act of a cab driver are almost none. The city would have no active role in that. There would be no theory of recovery against the city. You'd have to prove the city was somehow responsible for the car accident, which of course we would not be. So I don't have a whole lot of concern either way. If we're a named additional insured, I like the fact the clerk will be notified of that. On the other hand, one other thing to point out, if she were not notified, the cab drivers still have a substantial risk if they let the insurance lapse, because Lisa, the minute she finds out about that, can revoke their license. So if they get pulled over and they're not carrying the insurance, and the officer says, let me see your declarations page for your $1 million liability insurance, and they can't produce it, that just gets reported to Lisa and she revokes their cab license. So that'd be a brazen thing to do, to turn around the day after the license were issued and the proof of the insurance was shown, and turn around and cancel it, because the second we find out about it, they won't be doing business in Clinton anymore. So, you know, we have that power under the existing wording of the ordinance. So those are my thoughts.
Pat?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Ed O'Neill. I guess I'm not interpreting that they would absolutely win a lawsuit. I'm just saying that that we would be named in the lawsuit, and, you know, for not having followed up on it, and not having the ability to be informed, because we're also included insured. And yes, I agree with you. We probably would not be would lose a lawsuit, but again, to be dragged into a lawsuit over a multi-million-dollar claim is just something, you know, I think we can avoid. By the day that they drop the insurance, the guy's gonna pick up the phone, because it's the insurance agent's best interest, as soon as that policy gets canceled, pick up the phone and call Lisa, because, you know, somebody else is gonna get the insurance, or nobody's gonna get the insurance. And so, yeah, I think it just gives us a better heads up, rather than waiting for a police officer to pull somebody over or to have an accident happen.
Right, and I just think the council needs to be aware that there's authority out there that if we purchase insurance, or if we're named as an insured party, we would waive our immunity. That's the only thing that I'm telling the council. And of course, just because we're not immune from suit, if we're covered by insurance, still doesn't mean that they would have a meritorious case, and I doubt very seriously they would, because we're not out there driving the cabs, and unless we intentionally and illegally permit them or help them in some way to cause an accident, our code officials are not gonna subject us to liability anyway. So, like I say, I don't care which way the council goes on this. If you wanna have us be a named insured, I'm fine with that, but I don't think we have much exposure anyway, not for the actions of a cab company operating independently in town.
Okay, thank you.
Is one of two options better, Pat?
No, I don't think not. They both have drawbacks. I think they're fine. I think either way. I like the fact that there's all that insurance coverage. Certainly, if for some reason we were ever held like, you know, if there ever was a tenable theory against us, we have some insurance. Of course, you know, the beauty of the other way around, with us not being a named insured, is we would have immunity under the statute and say, look, Lisa Frederick, by her failure to know that they had dropped their insurance, is not in any way, shape, or form
So,
I don't think it's necessarily better either way. And a lot of cities, cities are split on it. Some cities insist on being named an additional insured, and other cities, like the city of Des Moines, for example, kind of drop that policy in favor of the immunity angle. There's merits to both sides, and I don't necessarily think one is superior to the other.
so Pat, if they have $1 million in coverage, and they get in an accident and cause $2 million in damage, is there more potential for us to be liable for the portion the insurance wouldn't cover, being a named insured versus being immune or whatever?
Well, first of all, we have insurance anyway, all right? We do have
Well,
insurance.
and
What would happen is if there was, for some reason, there were more damages than their policy would cover, if for some reason the city were an additional defendant, jointly and severally liable for the accident, then our insurance would kick in and cover that. That's how it would work. But, like I said, we're not the owner of the cab. We're not the operator of the cab.
No,
They would have to come up with a very, very creative theory of recovery against us, and I'm not aware of any. Merely because we own the municipality where the cab is operating does not authorize them in some way to have a cause of action against us.
so,
It's not like premises liability where we own City Hall and somebody slips and falls here or something like that.
okay, let's back up then. So they're $1 million short. They decide they're gonna sue us. Do they have a better chance of suing us if we're a named insured or if we're not a
No.
named insured?
No, and it's
Okay.
absolutely nothing whatever to do with whether they have a theory of recovery against us.
Okay. So they are equal. It doesn't matter, does it?
Not really.
This has been a long conversation for something that doesn't matter.
Well, the only real difference is, if we're a named insured, we're gonna know if the policy's
Yep.
canceled.
Yep.
If we're not a named insured, we're not gonna know if the policy's canceled, unless we go out and do random checks to see if they have an active policy.
And honestly, if we find out they did cancel a policy and they come in to renew the following year, do we really wanna renew their license?
No, we wouldn't.
We
renew
can
it.
just say, sorry, go to the Board of Appeals and fight it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you canceled your policy. Shouldn't be operating anyway.
Yeah.
All for probably 17 cents if you took one drive or one fare every day for 365 days for the 65. I mean, it's
Yeah.
total of what, 20 cents?
This way we'll know right up front.
Okay. So have we had enough discussion on this one item?
I still am undecided. I mean, if it doesn't matter,
Well,
You just need to
Yeah, but
abstain because you don't
yeah, we need to
know
make
what
it.
you-
So you can abstain if you like.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had enough discussion, so a yes vote will put back the section 114.17 requiring us to be a named insured. A no vote will leave it the way it is where it's omitted. Everybody understand?
Yes.
Okay. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gassman?
Yes.
Seeley?
Yes.
McGraw? Allison?
Yes.
Oder?
Yes.
Connell?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what else do we need to talk about in here?
There's the 4 things listed on
Yeah.
that one page. We should probably just talk on each one for a second. I mean, I think-
Okay, well, the first one on the page, now let's go, number one is the requirement to have meters in the taxi cabs.
Yeah, that was the second,
Your second? Well, go
second
ahead
problem,
and
yeah.
go right ahead.
That's the one I got the calls on. And I don't know if the rest of you got calls or not, but 2 were from sons of mothers who take tabs to Walmart and church, and 2 others were from riders that are very, I guess they have a lot of anxiety about not having a meter in the cab. The reason being that without it, it's very arbitrary, that they could take one cab to point A, and then take another cab, call a cab to go home and get charged entirely different price. So,
with the same company, you're saying?
not necessarily the same
necessarily.
company, maybe with the same company, but maybe with a different company. But, the thing is, the fares may be different, and I
Yeah.
understand
Yeah,
that. That's
yeah.
why I tried to explain to him. But the one son was very adamant that, he's very leery about having a cab service that doesn't have meters in them. And finally, I said, "Are you from Clinton?" He goes, "No." I knew what the next answer was. I didn't know exactly where. And I asked him where he's from. He was from Chicago, which I am too. And you just don't get a cab anywhere in a big city without a meter.
Yeah.
And if that flag doesn't go down, there's something wrong. So there's a couple of things. And in Chicago, if you're in a cab and the meter flag's still up and it's not running, in fact, when they turn it down, there's a light that goes on top of the cab. And if you've got a passenger in there, you'll get pulled over by the police because you're not metering a taxi cab. It's very restrictive. And we don't need to be that big city stuff. But the thing is, if there's a meter in the cab, then everybody gets charged the same price from going from point A to point B. And I understand, again, that there is a cost to that. And we do have an obligation to try to keep that cost down for the business. But again, for the, I'm guessing 15 to 2,000 people that probably do ride a cab, we have an obligation to make sure that the consumer is also protected. So, I think that's, to me, the cab thing, the meter thing is kind of a deal breaker. I think it just makes it equitable and fair for everyone concerned. The other thing is, if there's somebody from out of town who is more likely to take a cab than anybody, if they have a bad experience, that's not good either. So, I think for something that would be much more equitable for everyone concerned, including the competition, is kept in line too with each other. But mainly for the citizen or the consumer that's using the cab, I think we need the meters in the cabs. And from what I can gather, there's 5 or 6 cabs involved totally in town. So I know there's a cost, and if they're, they just have to have them metered or inspected, I guess, if they're calibrated, I guess is what we talk about. And I don't think we need to have a requirement for that, but whether the meter is accurate or not, at least it's the same for everybody. And when someone gets to their destination, it says $4.25 or $10 or whatever right on the meter. And I think that's much more acceptable than just, well, tonight it's $10. The next day it might be 12. I don't know. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but even if it happens by accident, it's still the transparency of it, I think, is the important part. So I'll make a motion to have the meters in the cabs as part of the ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so now we can have further discussion on that. Councilman O'Connell?
Wasn't
I figured this one over to my right would have.
I was wondering why you're staring at
Yeah,
me.
that's why I was staring at you.
wasn't the discussion last time, as long as the fair was posted, or even if it was in zones, I think maybe there was a discussion about, as long as that was posted, the rider or the ridership knows what they're getting into, instead of just, at random at the end of their trip, oh, by the way, it's $20. I thought we'd kind of discuss posting their fare if we were gonna go away from the metering
Yeah.
because of certain restrictions, maybe on a business or not, but as long as it was posted and the ridership was able to see that prior to,
Yeah, and that's right here in Lisa's.
Yeah, we did have that discussion that there would be a posting of the fares.
maybe 'cause-
Language is provided that rates must be posted regardless of whether or not the vehicle is metered in full view of the passengers in the taxi.
Mhm. And I do have another question, but I'm not sure how these work, but I'm assuming that, obviously not all businesses operate this with the same overhead and everything else. Somebody could be, 2016, 2017 model vans or cars, and somebody could have 20-year-old vans and vehicles out there or whatever. Is it the business that gives the meter company what their rates are? Or is it just standard? How does that work, I guess?
Wait a minute, you need to come up here so that everybody can hear you. And please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Monica Herrera. Actually, the way the meters are set up, when we go get our meters put into our vehicles, we give them the price, what it starts off with, and then how to, increase it. It's just the meters, we've had several different meters over the last years, and sometimes they break down faster than, you know, other ones would. And that was my issue with the whole having the meter in the vehicle, because, or like, when, like, let's just say one of our vehicles break down, we need to switch out a vehicle, you know. That's what we have to make an appointment. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks to get it in, you know, and that's why I did find a little app in the phone, you know, where it keeps track of the miles, so then we can add the miles up and do the total, you know, because we basically are $2 a mile, you know.
How does the person though in the back, how are they insured that that's
A lot of our customers know our prices, and like you guys said, you have the rate cards in there. What's the minimum, and then what's the increases? So once it goes over 3 miles, it goes to 4 miles. It's $8. You know, basically.
So do you post $2 per mile
Yeah,
somewhere?
yeah, actually, yeah, we have it on our we have it on our webpage and stuff like that. We have a Google page and everything that's set up to show them, you know, if they ever want to, you know, go online and check it out, or we can just explain it to them, or like we said, we have the rate cards and stuff, you know, to, you know, let them know what it is. A lot of our we have a lot of repeat customers, so they know already what the prices are. And when people out of town, we do get a lot of people from out of town where they can just, like, when they look us up, it takes them to our page, and then there shows all the rates on there too.
So I guess my basic point was, you could have 6 different cabs using meters with 6 different rates,
Yes.
regardless.
Because
Even if
that's
you all
competition.
required, yeah, exactly. They all have different overhead and profit rates. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's just business. I mean,
I think the meter provides a sense of security in the aspect that you sit there and you watch your bill run up.
mhm.
And I understand that completely, but I guess my question here is, who am I to sit here and tell these folks how to run their taxi? If you don't want to ride in a taxi with no meter, ride in a taxi in town with a meter. If you don't want to use a meter, fine, and hopefully your customers will still come to you not using a meter. If you want to use a meter, you know, perfect. Maybe people will want to come to you because you have a meter.
Mhm.
But I don't know why, as long as everything's clearly posted and there's nothing fraudulent or endangering or blatantly misleading going on, why I should tell you you have to use a meter and you know, or you don't. Because I don't think that's my decision to tell you how to run your business, I guess.
Mhm.
Councilmember O'Neill. And I respect what you're saying, but I guess my interpretation is, because the state tells us we have to license these, it is our responsibility to tell them how to run their business that best protects the citizens and the consumer. And the one guy said, look, my mother's 78 years old. She's not gonna argue with somebody at Walmart because she's getting charged $2 more than she got charged 2 days ago. They're gonna pay it, but they don't. And his concern is that she's gonna get, sometimes, you know, she's gonna get 2 different prices or get, you know, get ripped off. That's his concern. That's not my opinion. I guess my analogy to it is if you pull in the gas station and you just put the pump in your car and you turn it on, the guy comes out and says that'll be $40 because there's no meter. Are you comfortable?
Well, I guess it's a little.
It's not
Different
exact. I
situation,
understand
yeah.
that, but the fact of the matter is, it eliminates the anxiety and eliminates the unknown. If that meter's there and it says it's $12.25, that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how many miles it is, and when you're 78 or when you're 68 or when you're 45, if you're from Oskaloosa and you're here and you don't know how far it is from here to Walmart or here to the casino or from downtown to the casino, and somebody turns around and says it'll be $9, it's $9.
So you think it's our position to eliminate the
I'm
anxiety?
not trying to tell any of you that what's your job. I'm just saying to
I agree
myself,
with you.
my
I mean, I would rather ride in a cab
responsibility is
with
to
a
make
meter.
sure that we have qualified licensed taxi cabs in the city of Clinton, which I think we do. The other obligation to the citizens or the people that ride it is to make sure that there is a fair and equitable way of them determining what their fare is. Now, if the fares are different and they all got meters, that's fine. But I think somebody at 9 o'clock at night going to the casino or 2 o'clock in the morning coming back from the casino should be able to look up front it's $12, this guy is a real good good driver, I'm gonna give him 15 and he's out of there. But to find out at the end of the ride, this is what it costs, I don't know, I'm not,
I don't think we're saying, at least I'm not saying find out at the end of the ride. That fare is gonna be posted either and this is what it is per mile, or it's gonna be, there's four
Right, but you
regions of
don't know the
town,
miles.
and region A is $5, region B is this much, and I mean, we have a small enough community, I think that's pretty easy to do with
yeah,
the areas
but
of town.
people coming out of Sarah Harding to go somewhere aren't gonna read that first and find out, can you tell me what it's gonna cost to go there? They're gonna wait till they get there and they're gonna find out. And I just don't think it's the best way we could administer this.
A lot of the whole thing about the whole Sarah Harding thing too. A lot of our customers that do, you know, like the elderly, because they don't know the miles, is usually what they do is they contact us first, and they will call us and ask us, you know, how much is it to this place, you know, what's the miles and stuff. So before they even get into the taxi cab, you know, I can actually quote it for them, where I'm able to pull it up online, also give, you know, point B, you know, point A to point B, you know, and I'm actually able to give them, you know, just a set price, like.
Right, and
like,
that's fine.
you know.
But that's no assurance that it's gonna be point A to point B is gonna be $9 when they come back. Cause they may not call you, they may not got the same driver. But
Yeah,
if
well.
they see it on the meter, they
Mhm.
know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's just the reason why the meters. It's to sometimes where, you know, it is like where they're, like I said, everything's different. You know, like I told you before, meters break down all the time, and I mean, like I said, we've had the business for almost 4 years now, and we've had meters where they're never the same. They're always different, and that's why we wanted to go to the phone. You know, where we can program it into our cell phone and stuff, and go from point A to point B, because it's more accurate than what it would be on the meter. You know, where sometimes people pay more than what they're supposed to. Like a trip, a couple times where a trip from, like I said, 21st Avenue, you know, 21st Avenue or whatever, north to Walmart, like I've told you before, it's $10. Okay, I've put it in like several different meters. Sometimes it comes out to $15. They're paying $5 more than what they're doing because meters break down all the time, and it's expensive to replace, and it's just sometimes it's an inconvenience for us, you know. That's
Mr.
why.
Herrera, with all due respect, if the meter breaks down all the time, find a different meter company. There's
We've actually
450 cabs in Des Moines. If meters break down all the time, they'd be out of business. I just find it hard to accept that as an excuse, because meters can't break down all the time,
Yeah, and
or else they
we-
wouldn't be in business.
Yeah, and
So,
we've tried different ones.
I just can't buy that, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm fine.
You're fine?
Well, for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep it. Yeah, no, you need to come up to the microphone. We wanna make sure we hear you. Please identify yourself.
Name's Linda Kappas. My husband drives for the taxi, and your 78-year-old mother.
No, I'm sorry,
Whatever.
that wasn't my mother. That was
I know,
someone
it's
who
just an
called.
example. Anyway, we just give a lady a ride. I'd say she's probably in her 80s, and she knows how much the taxi fares are, and she carries these little baggies with her taxi fare in, her rent in it. She goes to the, I don't know if I should say the bank names, but 2 different banks, and she'll go and put money in her bank. She's got a baggie for each thing, and she knows exactly how much she has to pay. I mean, and we don't ask for more. I mean, if the meter would go higher, you know, we wouldn't charge that. We'd go by what she says. And the meters do. Once it hits that 3-mile mark for $7 to get into the car, sometimes the meters will really take off for some reason. I mean, it would be good for the taxi service, but not good for the customers. I mean, but I thought we were going by what Cedar Rapids had with the rate cards, is what you kind of discussed last time.
In here right now, yeah.
That, and then I thought they were saying that they could use a meter or not use a meter, is what was brought up in the last meeting.
Yes, so that's correct, but we also get response from our constituents, and these are the points they brought up since the last meeting, that these two sons and these other three people, they're not comfortable without meters being in the taxis. So that's why I'm changing my position, is because I'm not talking about for these people, I'm just talking for myself. My responsibility is to form an opinion. It's also my responsibility to change my opinion if I get constituents that have different points of view, and it makes more sense to me. And right now, it makes more sense to me overall, not just to isolate a case of the lady with the baggies, but overall, someone gets in a cab, there's a meter in there, it says this is the fare. Not subject to someone's interpretation of the miles, it's just there. There's no arbitration to it. It's just stayed on the meter. That's the end of the discussion. Just like I wouldn't wanna go in and pump gas and have someone come out and say, well, tonight it's $43. Next week might be $42.
I would think that, well, I know On the Go, they're pretty honest about their
I'm
rates and
not,
stuff.
I'm not questioning anyone's honesty, I'm talking about the perspective from the customer's point of view, is that's who we serve, are the people that ride the cabs or the people that visit the city. Their perception is the meter's there and that's the fare. I can assure you, someone from out of town, especially from a big city, gets in there and he's not gonna read or write the card on the side. They're gonna be very uncomfortable with somebody turning around saying, that's the fare. And they're gonna say, where's the meter? So I guess from my point of view, or my responsibility, that the overall best solution is to have the meters in there. And if they always break down, find a different meter company. There can't be just one meter company.
Councilmember Connell?
Thank you, Your Honor. So I guess there's clearly a couple different opinions out here. One thing to know, I guess, if you're familiar with the Ubers and the Lyfts, you know what you're paying when you get into that car. I think we're trying to make this a little bit easier for our local cabs to kind of compete with that market, even though they're not quite here, but it allows people to know before they're getting in to say, okay, this is what it's gonna cost me, and I'm okay with that. But yet, keep in mind too, we're not Chicago or a larger municipality. I mean, there's a cab on every corner, or 20 on every corner, so you can just hop in, right? We typically, in this town, you're gonna have to call a cab. And if you're calling the cab, you're probably gonna ask, hey, how much is it to take me from here to Walmart? I mean, you guys just, a couple businesses, and that probably have 6 vehicles between the two of you, and they're not sitting on every corner of town. So I think it's one of those things where we have to be educated enough to say, all right, I need a cab, and I need to be picked up from here to here, and what's that gonna run me roughly? And then when if I get there and I don't like the rate card, then I've got the option to say, okay, I'm gonna call the city municipal bus or whatever, or take the next cab company. I get the point where you're trying to go, and it does make sense to a certain extent, but I don't think we're at that point. If we had 100,000 more people, maybe so, and 20, 30, 40 more cabs, I don't know.
Councilmember Roder?
Yeah, so I'm really on the fence. Pretty much on the fence with this going into it, and that's why I seconded Councilmember O'Neill's motion, because I see what he's saying about this, about protecting the consumer. However, after discussion, Councilmember Seeley brought up a good point. Let's not put some undue burdens on businesses, and why are we telling them how to do that? So, if possible, I would like to withdraw my second to the motion on this. After the discussion, it's been a good discussion. I really sympathize with the company here that's been bringing these proposals, bringing their ideas. I don't think that they're, trying to cheat anybody out of anything, and so that's where I stand.
And we've all made a couple good points here.
Absolutely.
This is the private sector, the free enterprise. This is, if the consumer is unsatisfied with a business, they can go to another business. So if they're uncomfortable with riding in an on-metered taxi with the old-fashioned meter, they can call the other company in town that still has the meter. Or they can look into another option. And I don't see any issues of safety or security for the citizens and I just, none of my business how they run their business. And that's how I feel about it, and that's my stance I'm gonna keep.
In the end, it's competition.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is,
it's
and,
Who outserves the other business?
yeah, and if consumers are that concerned about the lack of a meter, the guy with the meter's he's gonna make a lot of money, you know? And if they're not, then everything's fine, right? You're not gonna continue to run your business with no meter if your business goes away. You're gonna get a meter, right? Yeah, yeah. But if you have satisfied customers that keep coming back and you don't have a meter, you're gonna run without a meter and life is good, so,
Okay, so we had a motion, and now we've had the withdrawal of the second, so I'll ask, is there a second to Councilmember O'Neill's motion to require a meter? Hearing none, that dies for the lack of a second. So the ordinance for number 1 that we were discussing will stay the way it is. We'll move down to item number 3, which talked about the operate 24 hours a day. The ordinance does not require it, but it does set out the maximum working hours for a 24-hour period, which I'm assuming you've all reviewed. Okay. Any comment on that one? Okay. And the last one actually still goes back to the city being listed as an additional insured. So, I think we've already covered that one.
And then the next page had the Board of Appeals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
board, that's the next item. And Matt, will have a suggestion of who the Board of Appeals could be.
Yeah, so I think on this part is that we keep Lisa out of it, cause she's already doing the coordination for this, so I would recommend, myself, the chief of police, and then Dennis Hart from MTA, because he lives and breathes on the streets of driving, that we would be the ones that they could come to if they had an appeal for any issues whatsoever on the taxi cabs.
I'd like to suggest maybe somebody from the general public and not all in city
Sure,
hall.
sure.
But yeah, 2 additional, that would be great.
Two additional.
Oh,
That's a
sorry,
lot of city
an additional, I don't know,
employees. I
it
wouldn't
doesn't
wanna
have to be
come
2,
appeal
I
to you
didn't,
guys.
I mean to mix words there.
2 additional would be better, cause you have an odd vote.
Well, there you go.
We wanna keep it odd,
Yep.
so that otherwise you have,
2 additional.
Yeah, it's already-
And I would definitely step back a step and still have like Dennis and Kevin
Yeah.
with 2
Well-
civilians or citizens, and then I could be like,
Arbitrator?
yeah.
okay, well then, should we make it then another one of the boards and commissions that I have to appoint people to and let the council approve that? And we'll actually have 2 members to it, plus the 3 city staff members?
Sure.
That would be fine.
Okay.
It's your
We can do that.
prerogative, yeah.
I don't know how busy we'll be, but we'll be ready.
The Housing
case
Board
you
of
are.
Appeals is not very busy either.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
appeals boards.
Yep. But at least it'll be there in case we need
It's
it.
there, we've actually run fairly well that we don't have too many appeals, so. And let's see, I think that then covers everything, unless anyone else on the council has any other comments or thoughts. Oh.
What about the sticker?
I was gonna put it on.
Looks great.
Will this be the actual size of the sticker?
No.
No.
I'd have to ask
No.
Tom if we can have this larger so the control officers can see that.
Just like
Why
wrap the
not-
van in it.
Why not do a
The
different
whole thing,
color
just
for
do a
each
wrap?
year, then you'll know when it's expired, like license stickers
Are
are.
we requiring
Good
it?
idea.
You can tell by the months of the year, they're
Yeah.
different colors.
Yeah.
That's what, and it would, I think we discussed it would actually, I think we discussed it would actually go in the back window, so when they would come up behind or see it parked, they could actually see the sticker clearly and identify that it's bona fide for that year, that it's all registered and everything's good to go.
Can we get them made locally?
Yes.
Okay.
How are we going to do this? Are we gonna make them individually then, because you've got issue dates, and expired dates, and,
Almost have to. I mean, how,
so that means when we get a taxi application, you're gonna have to go have 3 stickers printed because they have 3.
Right now, we only have 3 total licensed cabs in town, so
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be an issue to create 3 stickers.
Okay. Councilmember O'Neill?
Could you make it that the first of the year is when they have to get their sticker, and just have it, it starts,
Yeah.
1/1/18, go to 12/31/18?
Yeah, even
You-
if they come in March.
If you, if you come in
Yeah.
in, if
It's
you come in
prorated.
in June, you only pay maybe half the fee,
Prorate,
but
yeah.
it goes year to year, so we don't have
That
the
would make
inconvenience of running
sense.
out, making
And then next year we'll have a new color, so then if somebody's still running around with the white one, we know
Oh,
that they're expired.
You're getting smarter every year.
My old age.
Very good.
We're good?
Motion to approve
Yeah.
the sticker.
Is the sticker approved with everyone's?
I'll make the motion to approve the sticker.
Second,
Who designed it?
Lisa.
Nice job, Lisa.
She's gonna take over all graphic arts for the city. Could we have someone turn the lights back on?
I'll do this.
Oh, wait, hang on one second.
Well, if you're gonna roll it, if we're all.
Well, we need to have a motion to move forward the ordinance as we have amended it to the next council meeting.
We had the sticker thingy.
Your Honor, did you want roll call on the sticker?
On the sticker, we can have roll call on the sticker.
Okay. Councilmember Gassman.
Yeah.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw.
Yes.
Alfie.
Yes.
Odor.
Yes.
Kano.
Absolutely.
O'Neill.
Okay, now can we have a, if
I'll say
everyone-
yes too.
Thank you.
Let's not rush this,
On the
okay?
record.
Okay, so now, let's move on to the bigger topic of if everybody's happy with the way we think we have this ordinance worded, is there a motion to move it forward to the next council meeting?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, could we have roll call then?
Councilmember Gassman.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
McGraw. Alfie.
Yes.
Odor.
Yes.
Kano.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then we will move on to the next item, it's the scheduling of council member orientation.
Matt Brook, 604 Breezy Point Drive. No, so what we originally were gonna do was actually have.
I
you-
didn't recognize you.
I know. We were, you notice that back table's empty because I sent them all home today. Because originally we were going to take time tonight, but what we want to do is because I think there's actually at least 3 people that turn around that I like to see be able to attend this, and we want to do is get offline with you all individually to line this up because. But except for some overviews of like the line and block structure, which we'll share with all the council, there's some things that we want to get some folks into vehicles and get them out and about in different areas. So we want to be able to take the time to roll this. So basically it would be all the department heads would have some time with you, individual time. Myself would give you the bigger, broader overview of like the number of employees, what's the line and block chart, some of which you guys may have never seen. So I want to be able to also include that separately. Then we'd actually go into like, Seth, did you attend, sure, Councilmember Odor, did you attend Cedar Rapids on Saturday? And how was that?
It was good.
Yeah. So I did the Corning one, and now we have the purple folders, and they said we're supposed to throw our old folders away, but they wouldn't tell me what they changed, but I'm gonna find out.
Well, I have one from 2008, so we can
Yes.
see what's changed.
Compare them. They did a really good job though, so for those that have not gone, if you still want to, it's still relevant even after my year here going. There was a lot of important stuff that they rolled out for that phase 1. I thought it was very beneficial on those pieces. And they actually got into the finance, which, they can't compare to Anita when she gives her finance stuff, but they gave a good job on rollback and all that as well. So we'd also go through council meetings, protocols, all the voting procedures, and how do you actually do motions and all that good stuff. Pat, who's on the phone, he would actually provide some open meeting law, public records law, ethics conflicts, the gift and home rule stuff, just to reiterate mostly for that. And then we'd also go into current city issues, which, oh, by the way, those 3 items are all coming up real quickly. I'm gonna provide you guys a strategic draft here, probably the either December 12th or January 9th that we can go over so you guys can start giving me guidance and direction on our way ahead. I'm gonna focus similarly on the 2-year plan like you guys had before, 16-18. We'll look at 19 to 21 FYs for that as well. CIP process, of course, goes to the commission board tomorrow, planning commission, so that'll come back around in January for you all. And of course, Anita's knee deep in the budget protocol right now as well. Is there any questions or things that we missed that you want to have? Confusion?
When is this?
Well, we want to line it up. We're looking. Yeah, we'd like to do it with at least 3 or less, so we don't have to do like a public meeting,
Sure.
but we can. And we like to work with your time schedules to get you out and about. Not only to see the new jet truck, which we got you signed up to see the new jet truck. But also because there's several with Creighton specifically, With the MTA, there's some routes we want you to take. We want you to get out, see some of the streets and the tyranny of distance that we do for picking up garbage and solid waste and recycling. So what we want to do is kind of do one-on-one with you all, unless there's a group of 3 that could get together. That's why I didn't want to bring everybody in tonight to go over like an hour and a half with this right now, unless that's what you so desire for those pieces.
So what would time frame would be of completion? When would you want it?
We would really like to get it done,
On January?
specifically before January starts, as we, get Bill on board and everything else too, so, yeah.
There's such little time though left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you focus on the newer?
Yeah, I was hoping to grab a couple of, at least, Councilman Oder and then our future council person behind me.
Yep.
And get those 2 at least, but then anything on here that you guys want, I would definitely, even if it's only an hour, we can coordinate for that,
Okay.
for you guys to do that. Any specific item at all, you guys would like to discuss, definitely we'll take the time to do that. And I would really say, Councilmember O'Connell, really through January, get the first 2 fellas complete as soon as possible, but then anything in January, because a lot of these things we're gonna be hitting on, a lot of these things you already know. And especially if you guys get to attend those, the training sessions, that would also kind of, fill in for that one as well, so. Questions, concerns, or?
Well, I think you should go through the city attorney's part with everybody, because there's a lot of trouble you can get into,
Yep.
and you don't even know it, and then you have to defend yourself, you find out. You have to hire your own attorney for some of these things,
Yep.
and people don't know that, so you need to tell them up front
And we-
what
and-
kind of situations
And not
you
throw
get
Pat
in.
under the bus, but we could definitely do that at like the December 12th or the January 9th council of the whole, committee of the whole as well.
Yeah,
That would be easy to fit in.
and even like in,
We've got green play.
Yeah, that's a big part of the, 12th.
The 12th could be a long meeting.
Yeah. Everybody's read that 82-page document, right?
Mhm.
Memorized it.
I'm partway through. Yeah. That's a good suggestion. We definitely could do that as well.
What was
And
your
that-
other date on that one? The what?
We could probably look at January 9th for that.
Oh, January.
Because what I'm looking at is either,
That would be a good.
I right now have a strategy session, the part on the bottom there, set up for December 12th, if Green Play doesn't take the whole time.
Okay.
And because I just want to be able to give you some, and the reason we put this on here, because it's on the agenda, give you some ideas of where we're looking for as far as the strategic plan, so then then we can come back in January and be able to dive into it a little deeper on those.
Very good.
But definitely we can hit the key legal. Pat, are you still with us?
I certainly am.
Could you take the next 45 minutes?
Teach you one.
Yeah, so we'll look at, a couple dates there, but we'll get back with you on the dates part. We'll keep you up to date, though. We won't surprise you.
Very good.
Yep, and I think really what that would be is, from council meeting all the way down to home rule, we would look to do those items all together. And just a refresher for everybody, that would be good. Actually, maybe we even start at duties, roles, and responsibilities, because I have that portion with Lisa, and with pretty much we can knock that out minus the department heads, and then we can do that on the side of the department heads. Because I just tried to scare them and say they had to give a 15-minute presentation up here to all you, and that's why there's no one here tonight. No, with that said then, if there's no other further questions, we will get on the schedule for either December 12th or January 9th for those items and get you guys all caught up. A little refresher.
Would it be good to get with you then on the other dates?
Yes.
If you
yeah,
wanna-
I'm going to be kind of pressuring you because I want to get several of you, most of y'all, out and about, especially with the Creighton. Creighton's been chomping at the bit to get you guys out, so we'll get that. And then also they said that I couldn't get Councilmember O'Neill to the RWRF before he left, and I said I could. So we'll see if we can get him down there. Because we would definitely want to give you a tour down there because we want to link that in with the new jet truck. So we're trying to they're all trained on it now, but get you down to the RWRF to see that. If you haven't, we definitely want to get you in there to see it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And Ed's over there going, no way.
And when you worked on it for 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So sound like a plan? All right.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we're down, we've got, oh goodness here, 9, 10. We've got 2 hours and 5 minutes.
What?
I'd take a break.
Could you read us an excerpt from your short stories, please?
Yeah, I think we should take a
In the
break.
beginning,
Oh, Lord. Excuse me.
So we'll get down to the most important part, the mayor council updates. Does anyone have anything? Hearing nothing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Young in there, good. Actually, I think the longest one was we had you on the